Okay, we're going to go ahead and start off with our review of episode 5 of The Wheel of Time from Amazon TV. So, we start off with Steppen burying his Aes Sedai as well as a number of other graves, assumedly from retainers, or maybe they were the Dragon's Horn. I don't know. But there's a number of people dead, buried. Alana sings a song, and Moraine says a Borderlander blessing over Kareen's grave. It was good. This is a bit of a departure from my understanding of how the water bond would play out in this situation. I do not think he would be necessarily this calm, especially with Logan still alive and right there. But this is a change that I find a bit reasonable. I appreciated seeing Steppen's grief, and some of the things later on with him, I think play out in just the way he describes their relationship. I really appreciated taking the time to explore that bond between the Warders and the Aes Sedai this episode. There's a lot of other things in this episode I disliked, but we'll get to those. So from here we get a month transition, a month of travel time that we don't get to see. Happens off screen. A lot of things happen off screen. The Aes Sedai return to the White Tower, and we see a gentle Logan who has very much fallen from his former nobility. He is not the man he once was. The loss of the power has taken a toll on his psyche, as you can see. We get a shot of the White Tower. They've done a good job with the architecture's shots, I think, so far in the series. They do a good job of giving a sense of scale to stuff. Just a personal nitpick in my interpretation. It was more narrower structure, growing taller, but I don't really think there's anything wrong with this. This is really cool. I can't wait to show you all the later shots of the actual whole city. So from there, we go over to Matt and Rand going in. They're discussing, Matt getting worse. You can kind of see it, and then we get a shot of Dragon Mount. Dragon Mount is the resting place of Luz Theron Telamon and the birthplace of the Dragon Reborn. Rand gives us the little line of that looks, I think I've seen that before, I believe was the way he phrased it. But basically Dragon Mount looks familiar to him, and they've never left the Two Rivers. So seems like they're not messing with this. They are messing with us with all this Dragon Reborn thing, but it's still going to be Rand, so that's nice, I guess. I just wish we hadn't wasted a season on a pointless mystery. But okay, again, we get a nice shot of Tarvalen, which, with the boys overlooking it, part of me wants to question how are they up here, but part of me is also Matt and Rand would definitely go climb a hill just to look at the city before they go into it. They would waste time doing this. This shot, by the way, is really cool. We saw the tower before, towering over the landscape, and now we see it actually towering over the city, where it dwarfs some of these structures that you're going to see. Or they're pretty big buildings, and then in the distance, Dragon Mount is overtopping it, and I think that really. I like this imagery. I said it about the land shot a couple episodes ago when he was looking for the Aes Sedai. I said it in Shuttle Logoth. I like their, big shots. They get those right, I guess. I just would like them to not be messing around with this mystery stuff and just kind of be a bit more faithful to the story that was. Obviously you can't have everything the exact same, but I don't know, they put a lot of work into this. Like, this wasn't something that they just slapdash together, right? Like, so I can't. I'm just curious why they kind of, it feels like they're slapdashing the story by making it all about this mystery that it really doesn't need to be about. Like, the actual story itself was fine, but okay, it's not a big deal. So we get into the city with the boys, and they they get rooms in an inn. Rand drops a comment about it costing a month what the inn back home, the Wine Spring, costs. A lot less in this place, obviously. They kept that part of the Two Rivers where it's economically depressed. I really wish they hadn't changed the fact that people looked out for each other, and that there was a sense of duty and honor, and that like people like Matt's dad in the show would not be tolerated. And I don't understand why they made Matt responsible. Like, that is, Matt is not responsible. He's supposed to be a trickster. He's supposed to be the guy who will pull pranks, but when it counts, he's there, right? Like that dual nature made him a more complex character. And his, honestly, to almost to the end of the books, he was trying to just get away. He just wanted to have fun and live a fun life, a safe life, and his better nature / the pattern kept pulling him back in. And I don't hate the change necessarily to Matt, making him more responsible off the bat, so that he's more likable before we see him fall to Mashadar. But I don't like that it came at the expense of the Two Rivers. And I don't necessarily know if it's necessary to do that. Like, is it impossible to make a goofball likable? Like, do people not like the Joker? Not the Joker, but the guy who's cracking jokes. Like, is that not generally a trait people find enjoyable? So maybe they could have actually just left him alone, and people still would have liked him. And then he got corrupted by Mashadar, and they could see the change from this happy-go-lucky dude to this very melancholic and like paranoid guy. But we never get the pass back. All we can do is move forward with what we have. We get a bit of introspection from Matt, where he's like, I think I killed that girl, but Rand's like, no, it was the Fade. He reassures him. That's good. I would prefer if we weren't even like kind of suspicious of if it happened, but it is what it is. We cut back to the White Tower with the Aes Sedai having settled in. Nynaeve is shown to her quarters in the warder's quarters. They argue a bit. Like, Nynaeve is basically just saying, where are the others? You're supposed to be looking for the Dragon Reborn, and yet you've let them get lost, and you're going to get them killed. And so Moraine sends Lan out the room essentially and reiterates her earlier warning to Nynaeve that she needs to be careful in the tower. And you can see Moraine trying here to make the best of the mess she made, but it is what it is. And I say she made because if Lan's mistakes are her mistakes, as she said, then it's her fault that they went to Shadow Lugoth. We go from this to Perrin and Egwene back with the Tinkers. Aram and them are having the discussion. Perrin brings up the hypocrisy of letting the dogs attack wild boars in the area, but it's like the dogs are supposed to ward off danger, and so he would, being from the country, would know that hogs can be dangerous, and number two, dogs eat meat. So I don't understand why this is necessary. Like, maybe it's just trying to like really reinforce that he hates violence, but it's like, this isn't supposed to be Perrin. Like, it's not supposed to be that he loathes violence like unreasonably. Like, he has just a healthy regard for human life, and like he's just a decent man who's trying to do what he has to do to make sure that the people he loves and everybody really don't end up dead or enslaved. So like why and there's a part later on in the episode that kind of makes me reiterate this feeling where they're really going too far on the anti-violence side for Perrin, but they made him kill his wife, so it makes sense in their story. I just hate their story. So we have the Tinkers lock hands because Emin Valda has found the group, and he spots Perrin and Egwene, demands they're handed over to him. Obviously, Rain and Isla are in the front. Isla gives us some lines about the leaf going back to the dirt and the air, and it's like, this is probably fine. In the books, the Tinkers say they would run away because offering yourself to be a target of violence actually does harm to the person who does violence to you, so you should try and flee. But I think with the added context of saying, no, you can't have these people, I think this would be something that the Way of the Leaf would permit. And I actually really like this scene because it shows us a lot about both the Tinkers and the White Cloaks. I don't want to sound like some sort of like, misogynist or something, but it would feel better to me if Rain had gotten more lines throughout this, so that it would be more of a partnership between the two of them. But I understand that with the nature of the medium, you're not always going to have people, available to be able to act to the level that you need to carry that role. So whatever. Isla did a good job with delivering the line, so good to go. Oh hey, Catherine Kinney, welcome to the chat. First time I've noticed somebody in the chat when I'm doing these things. So we go from her defiance to Perrin and Egwene running away, with the White Cloaks still beating up the Tinkers in the back, not killing anybody, but definitely hitting people to force a way through. We get a quick cut of Aram getting knocked out and Perrin and Egwene being captured in the woods. So the Tinkers getting beat up kind of didn't really. I mean, it mattered from a philosophical standpoint and a character standpoint, but in the actuality, they still got captured. So we're gonna see where that goes later on. We go back into Tarvalen, and we get our first sight of Loyal, and I think he looks pretty cool. My only complaint would be that he's not tall enough, but that's a quibble. I feel like he's a bit abrupt with his introduction here. I like how he rambles. I feel like he should speak just a little bit slower as far as that goes, but I understand that you got to keep people interested in the TV show, so that maybe they can't do that. My only real thing is just with the way the scene itself is kind of like set up. It just for Loyal, a character who's so momentous in the series, and he's described as such a very slow and steady type of character, to have such a abrupt introduction. In the books, it's kind of abrupt too, but it's a book, and it's not him walking in, it's Rand walking in, and he's just sitting there. So I think that adds something to it, where he's not the one being amble. He's not moving around doing the stuff. Oh, excuse me 1 second. So I just would like to have seen a little bit more time taken, and I feel like that's a thing I've repeated over and over throughout this review process. I wish they had just taken some more time with stuff. Number one complaint is the mystery. I don't like that. Number two complaint is it feels a bit misandristic, when I feel like it's supposed to be representing the faults and strengths of both genders, and I feel like it's rushed. Number three would be it's rushed. So I feel like the first two are things that in this day and age I can't necessarily expect more of, but I feel like they could they can slow down a little bit and give me a bit more time to enjoy the things that I do enjoy in the show. Other than that, I like the scene. I like Jane Farstrider. It's nice to have that little drop. I really hope that we get to see Jane. That would be cool. That'd be a really neat thing to see. Rand makes some excuses and gets out of there because he made a fool of himself, and he wants to go see the parade with Matt, and he wants to check on Matt. And as he's looking out the window, we get a sight of Pat and Fane in the background, watching him behind the procession. He's in between the two cages here, if you didn't notice. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen with him going forward, because at this point in the books, he was a very different man than he is in this shot. So I would like to see it. Obviously, he's going to still have to go where he ends up. I'm going to like to see that. I'm going to be curious to see what they do with the next season and the next book, because that's honestly where I think it's going to be the most pronounced that he's not insane. But maybe they're going to have an answer for that. Maybe they're going to have him go insane in the next few episodes or something, which might be cool. We get the boys sitting there watching the parade. They see the false dragon Logan being carted through the streets. A nice touch is they had the two seats, with the rule being you have to have two women holding a shield on the man instead of what it was in the books. You have a new contraption where it meets that specification, which is okay. It's neat, I guess. I don't like the change, but I do like the thing. And I really, really like this scene where we have Logan caged, laughing maniacally as he looks on Matt and Rand. And this is a carryover from the books that is done at a much closer range. And I think the fact that it spooked Rand from as far as it did in the books, it would definitely spook him right there above this guy instead of multiple city levels above it. I'm really interested to see where Logan is going to end up in this show. I hope we get to see more of him. This actor has been pretty cool. He's been one of my high points in the show for me. After Perrin and Tom, I think this has been my third favorite character in the show so far. From this scene, we cut into the White Tower, and we see Steppen preparing for a ceremony of some sort, where he has Kareen's ring on his neck, and some sort of ceremonial garb, where he goes into a room after talking with Lan for a bit and puts the ring into a crucible that appears to always be sitting there hot, which, okay, I mean, assumedly they do this with the power. So, okay, go ahead. That's fine. But this scene with Lan and Steppen and the two warders for Alana was really, really good. This is when we get the history of how he became the warder of Green, and how he became the man he is instead of the monster he could have been. And I would like to see more of this, more honest character growth, character revelations, and to just the scene after this, Steppen has obviously, he's not in a good state right now. He's obviously upset, and that's to be expected. He just lost his Aes Sedai, right? They're supposed to be in a death craze where they want to kill whoever killed them, and they'll die trying. So, okay, I get it, and Lan feels for his friend, I get it. I don't get this, where he's sitting there looking at Moraine right after that scene, and I guess he's thinking back to their history and thinking, oh, what if I lose her? But first off, it's Lan Mandragoran. He wouldn't do this. Like, he wouldn't do this. Like I felt like this was too far, and what ends up happening to him by the end of the episode, I think, is just disgusting. But this right here is the most emotional Landman Dragon should ever get. And I feel like this scene right here is a bit not... It doesn't call for this amount of emotion from Land. He's supposed to be the stoic. He's supposed to be the definition of stoicism. And I don't understand why we need to do this and change him. But we are, apparently. We go back to Perrin and Egwene. They have been captured by the White Cloaks. Valda being disgusting and creepy as ASMR eating for us for a while. We gotta really hammer home that we don't like this man. Don't like him, guys. He eats noisily. He's disgusting. And then he just goes around and starts doing some torture and stuff. He's not really not a good guy. I mean, maybe we didn't need to have him smacking into the mic to convince us of that. But okay. Egwene keeps her cool. She says, "Oh, I'm not gonna say anything. You might as well just kill me. I'm not a nice to die. You're a hypocrite." And he says, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna kill you yet." And he starts torturing Perrin, and that's when she starts getting upset, and we hear wolves in the distance howling. Valda tells Egwene that if she'll channel, he'll kill her and let Perrin go, and if she refuses the channel, he will kill Perrin and let her go. So he leaves them to discuss this, taking out Perrin's gag, and we get a quick little shot when he was first being tortured of the wolves being awakened within him, the golden eyes coming out. It's pretty good. It's a nice shot. I don't like that he had a gag in his mouth while he was doing this, but okay, alrighty. It is what it is. We go back into the tower. Steppen is getting some tea from Egwene. Not Egwene, I'm sorry, from Nynaeve. This is supposed to help him sleep. They discuss the nature of his pain. He's like, "No, I don't want to not feel the pain. I want to keep this because it's the only thing I have of her." And it's like, yeah, okay, this is good. This is great. I like this. This is good character moments with this man. And like, let's be honest, we all know he's not making it out of this episode, right? Like, he super grieving dude. He's probably gonna kill himself in a TV show. Don't do that. Call a hotline. But in the show, okay, that's storytelling conceits. I don't hate the character growth beforehand, but it feels like maybe we could have given this character growth to someone who's going to be sticking with us. But we do get to see the other characters react to him and what he does and how he decides to handle this. And I just... Maybe I'm just upset because I don't like what that does to people. What Lan ends up doing at the end of this episode. But otherwise, I like this. I like the overall arc of Steppen's story throughout this episode. I would like more of this going forward and less of Lan beating his chest in performative grief. I don't necessarily understand why all of these next couple scenes happen the way they do. They feel really stilted and like not good. Maybe things got cut because of time constraints going from 10 to 8 episodes. But it is what it is. So we have Nynaeve talking to Leandra. She's obviously trying to recruit her to the Red Aja, but it is what it is. They're outside the hall of the tower, and Leandra makes some claims about how men treated her whenever she came into her power. And the books already had a more matriarchal world than we were used to, but the show is even more so that way. And I get it, that dynamic would still exist, a strong man and a young girl who does not actually have access to the power yet to a meaningful extent would, that's going to play out the same way as it does in our world, unfortunately. And I would like less of that, obviously, but I would also like less just general man-hating. And I don't know why Leandra was here to do this. Like, Nynaeve isn't going to start hating men. Is it just to give Leandra more screen time so that we can use her as the villain for this season? Maybe. Like maybe it's literally just that. But considering how much like other stuff we've cut, I really wish we weren't getting a patriarchy in this episode, in this scene right here. And instead of that, maybe we could have the scene where maybe the scene we were supposed to probably have, because the scene after this, we just cut to Rand and Matt in their inn, and Loyal comes in and says, "Oh hey, by the way, I found Nynaeve," and Nynaeve comes bursting into the room. It's like, "Oh, blah blah blah," and so it's like, it's fine. This scene's good. I like it. I would have liked to have seen the scene where Nynaeve and Loyal run into each other. That would have made a lot more sense than her talking to Leandrin. But it is what it is. I'm not in charge of things, apparently. No one called me to make the Wheel of Time TV show. They go back and forth talking about the others. And then Matt gets a bit, you know how Matt is right now. So Rand and Nynaeve step outside to talk about him and how the possibility that he might be a channeler. Then Nynaeve talks about her experience with Egwene, with the Breakbone Fever, and in the books, it was a moment of humility for her as well as like joy, because she was wrong, right? Egwene was going to get better. She was going to be fine. She just had to have the fever break that night, and that was going to happen. That was fine. But Nynaeve used the power for the first time to heal Egwene, and so she didn't even do that. She just was immediately fine. And so Mother Gwenna was worried that Nynaeve had given her something, and she was checking over Nynaeve more than Egwene because she knew Egwene was always going to be okay. And changing it from that to this, where Mother Gwenna was going to give her like either anesthesia or just straight up euthanize this child because of the pain, and Egwene was like, "No, I'm not going to take the medicine," and just sat there. And it's described as the fever makes your muscles contract to the point where it can break bones, and like you just contort your body around, right? And so Egwene didn't cry the entire time, despite her muscles cramping to the point where it could have broken her bones. Okay, that's interesting. And so basically, Egwene is unbreakable, and it's like in the books, right? She is unbreakable by the end of it, but she has to get there. Like, she doesn't start there. She has to learn the lessons of a hard life to be able to be that woman, and to give her that as like a 10-year-old seems like it's not valuable. Like it's not good. Why are we doing this? I don't know. I'm not in charge. So then we go from Egwene Unbreakable to Perrin the Broken, where the two of them were discussing who should die, and he says it should be me because I killed my wife, and Egwene's like, no, you didn't kill your wife, and he's like, no, I killed my wife. And so we get confirmation here that he did hear her. It wasn't just the pattern that made him do it. And maybe this is just him rationalizing it. Maybe he's just not accepting that the pattern made him do it. Or maybe I'm just not accepting that they made him do it. But Perrin killed his wife. Never forget that. Perrin killed his wife. Perrin Aybara killed his wife. Just going to say that again. Perrin Aybara killed his wife that they made up for him. So Valda comes back into the room, and Egwene hasn't channeled herself free, so he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna start torturing Perrin again. And so he starts cutting into him, and Egwene summons up the will and channels Valda. It's a little fireball. It doesn't seem like it would have done much, even if it, had hit him. But it didn't even like sear the clothes. Like it seems to me like Valda might have a medallion that a certain character in the book gets, where it allows him to not be targeted by channeling. Like whenever a weave would touch his body, it unravels. And so that's what this looks like to me. So it's interesting. I didn't hate it. It explains how he was able to get the rings from those Aes Sedai. So I guess they did explain it. I don't necessarily like that they have them, the White Cloaks being they, but that is what it is. From here we get a fight between no one, essentially, right? Because Egwene, after having failed to kill him with the fireball, channels and frees Perrin and herself, and we get a fully golden-eyed Perrin, menacingly stepping towards Valda. And so it's like, oh, well, we're finally going to get to see some action from Perrin. He's going to smack this dude around a bit, and then they're going to run away. No. Egwene Unbreakable. She sneaks up behind him, picks up the knife that he dropped because he was afraid of Perrin's golden eyes, and stabs him in the shoulder blade. Which, okay, I mean, not where I would pick to stab the man, but it is what it is. And then they run away, and thankfully the wolves that we've been hearing throughout this scene, getting louder and louder, have attacked the camp. And Perrin is confronted by that one. He's like, oh, okay, we're chill, and it leaves them be. And so Perrin's role here was summoning the wolves to attack the camp, which that was cool. That's nice to see them doing something with that. I would like to see more of how that works, but okay. If we're just going to get golden eyes and the wolves show up, I guess I'll have to just take that. From here, we go back into the tower, which, I mean, it is what it is. The Perrin stuff, I'm just going to have to let it go. But here we have Leandra and Moraine talking about Nynaeve joining certain Najas, and Leandra seems to think that Nynaeve will join the Red because she has like a strong sense of morality and like right and wrong. It's just, I really hate the Reds. I don't like Aes Sedai in general. Just basically on principle. There's plenty of Aes Sedai who are fine people, but it's just one of those things where you're better off just not liking them in general, just to be safe. But the Reds never. No. There's like one good Red sister, two, Teslin and Pavara. That's about it. I don't like any of the other ones. So, no, Nynaeve is not going to freaking join the Red Aja. She's going to join the Yellow Aja. And if she doesn't join the Yellow Aja in this, I'm like, that's going to be stupid. I don't like that. But the real kicker in this scene right here is we get some. I wouldn't have been okay with it the way she's touching her. Like Leandra touching Moraine's face felt very inappropriate to me. I don't like that woman. I should have gotten a clip of that scene, but it just kind of disgusted me too much. So I got one for this next scene. Steppen is burning incense to keep Ishamael away, which this feels like it's just kind of like a stiff way to introduce this exposition, which it's not even like great exposition, because they attribute the title for Shaitan, the father of lies, to Ishamael, which, okay, that's fine, but Ishamael is supposed to be the betrayer of hope, which, whatever. I think betrayer of hope is a cooler title for Ishamael. I don't necessarily I hate these little figurines. They're cool. They're neat. People can try and like zoom in on them throughout the episode in this scene and try and find who they think each person is. I don't hate that idea, but I also kind of don't like the idea of them like doing ceremonies to statuettes of the Forsaken. Like, do you know how, like, wouldn't that just be so easy for somebody to just worship the Forsaken then instead of warding them away? I don't know. Like, I don't. I'm not a history like expert. I don't know everything about everything, but I'm not super aware of any cultures where you would have idols of your demons and perform ceremonies of like negative ceremonies to them instead of performing positive ceremonies to your deity. But that's weird and creepy. I don't like it. But I do like the figurines. I just don't like that we have normal people interacting with them so casually. We go to, I guess it's Moraine's room, and Alana has come and she's eating dinner there, and they're eating an apple or something, and they're sitting there chit-chatting, talking about the whole Steppen situation and the Amelin coming back, apparently upset over Logan being stilled. There's some implications that Moraine and Swan see each other as like rivals and a threat. That might just be the subterfuge going on, but I really hope they don't change the relationship between the two of them that exists in the books. From here, we get a quick little scene of Lan and Steppen sitting there talking about the good old days type of thing. Lan suggesting, are you going to go get rebonded by Alana? Like, what's your plans? And Steppen's like, just drink the tea, buddy. So he drinks the tea finally, falls asleep. So the tea that Nynaeve had given him was used to drug Lan, who awakens the next morning to find one of his knives missing and his friend gone. He goes to find him in the hall with the warder statues outside of the hall of the tower where he has died. This scene right here, great scene. Suicide, terrible. Don't do it. But in a TV show, if we're going to have a character commit suicide in this manner, and we're going to have a character who is supposed to be extremely stoic, that Landman, a la Mandragoran, a man who is a people unto himself, on the line. Why are we gonna like this? This is where it should end. This was it. This was the response. This was the perfect response. He kneels down. He holds his friend's shoulder in grief. Thinking of all the things that he could have done to prevent this. I'm not super certain that Lan would. His whole saying is death is lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain. I mean, obviously his implication was always you better carry that mountain until the feather relieves your weight. But I also think that if it was him in this position, he would be riding to the blight instead of killing himself. But it also definitely seems like they wouldn't just let Steppen ride off to the blight. So, I don't know. I'd have rather seen him go off to the blight and fight and die there. But, it is what it is. That complaint there, that was a nitpick. What I'm about to discuss, this is not a nitpick. This is what's called character assassination. And I get it. It's supposed to be he is channeling the grief of everyone. And so we have all the Aes Sedai and the other warders standing around being rather stoic. Some of them are tearing up a little bit. Some of them are kind of upset. Some of them are more upset. It's a nice mix. What I dislike is Lan, the way he is beating his chest and screaming. Like, it's performative grief. He is being told to exhibit performative grief, and it all culminates with him like pulling his robe apart and like just howling with his exposed chest. Like, what is going on? Like, what has happened to Landman Mandragoran? What has happened to the stoic among stoics? there's nothing wrong with grieving. There's nothing wrong with shedding tears. If if this is the response from Logan when he is having the power torn from him, fine. This is appropriate. He's shedding some tears, and like he's cringing, like he's experiencing the most traumatic event a person can go through. Like, yes, Lan lost his friend, but his friend like chose it. Like, it's not. This is ridiculous. Like, Lan would be sad for his friend's passing. Like, and like, again, there's nothing wrong with a man showing grief. It doesn't make him less manly. Like, this just makes him less Lan. Like, go look at the freaking the Lord of the Rings, right? Gandalf dies, and you have Boromir shedding tears, and everybody's upset. It's fine that they're upset, but Aragorn gets them moving again. He understands that he can grieve his friend internally, but he needs to get his other friends moving. He has a duty still. He has something that he has to see done, because now it's his responsibility. And so I just, this is not Lan. I don't like this made up ceremony. I feel like everything that I've disliked about the show so far has been things that have been included to significantly change the characterization of one of the male characters, or the female characters, right? Because I didn't like some of the scenes in the Two Rivers, like the sacred pool and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily know if I would call that scene something that was trying to characterize the character so much as set up the mystery. But if somebody wanted to say that I complained about that scene, I did. So maybe it's a hedging on my part to try and like walk that back. But I really legitimately have enjoyed Zoe Robbins. I've enjoyed her portrayal of Nynaeve. Rosamond Pike has not been my favorite. But she's also just wasn't there for a couple episodes. So what you gonna do? Maybe she would have grown on me by this point if she had more time, but I don't know. I found her to be lacking. She doesn't have Moraine's presence to me. Like, Moraine's supposed to be this itty-bitty woman who can fill up a room just with her attitude. And I don't get that from her. She just feels too stiff. But maybe that's just because it's rushed. Maybe we're not getting enough scenes with her because we're supposed to have more episodes. My complaints with Egwene are really, I feel like they're just kind of rushing her storyline a bit. They're not giving her a story arc so much as they're just taking her at the end of her arc and inserting her at the beginning of the story. Which, current year, what you gonna do? But the stuff with the men, like the boys from the town, like the village being okay with Matt's parents being the way they are, stuff like that. I don't like that. Like that to me is really what the problem is in this show. It's that they don't understand the moral of the story. They don't understand the point of the story. That it's not like the point of the Eye of the World was that it's literally supposed to be an ode to the Fellowship of the Ring. It's supposed to be going through the Fellowship, the Two Towers, kind of get skipped a bit, and then just like following Frodo through to Mount Doom. Right, you get to the Eye of the World because he wasn't sure if he was going to get the full trilogy he had pitched, so he wrote the Eye of the World like it could be the end of the story. And I wish. I mean, you don't need to do the exact same story as the Eye of the World, and you literally probably couldn't do some of the story because some of it really wouldn't translate well. But I don't understand why they've made the changes they have besides the ones necessary for them shrinking the season down from 10 episodes. But I don't think that they would have made the changes I would have wanted to see even with the extra time. I think they still would have destroyed the Winespring Inn. I think they still would have shifted the blame for the breaking wholly onto the men. which it's pretty squarely on the men even in the books, but it's more, and like we just don't get the expo dump. We get a prologue where we see a man gone mad giving a moment of lucidity, and then that's it. And we just get some dribbles here and there. We don't get this expo dump explicitly telling us that men broke the world because they're arrogant, and I don't like that. That's not the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is that both sexes have their value and that they need each other to be better. Men and women, or just any people, right? Because it's not just about the genders, right? Because it's all about all the nations of the world eventually. It spreads out to encompass every continent on this planet. And really, how they all need to get over their own arrogance and be willing to come together where they can to fight against evil, right? There's a scene in the last book. Spoilers for this scene. Spoilers for a few other things, so, plug your ears. Matt's love interest is Tuon, who is pretty cool. Probably my second or third favorite female character in the series. And she is an empress. So Matt has gone to try and shirk off the last battle / bring her to the last battle and run down to where she has taken up residence in the south. Rand, able to find Matt and Perrin because of some contrivance in the plot, is able to follow Matt down there. And so he finds Matt and Tuon in the morning after they have spent the night together, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty funny because you get to see them as like friends, right? Like he's embarrassed, he's like, oh my bad, type of thing. And then him and Matt sit there while all of her guards come piling out, and like the Damani that she has, the channelers that she has, wrap the two of them up in flows of air and stuff. And so you've seen in the show how Moraine just snaps the Trollocan to pieces. So like they're in a position where they're dead as soon as Tuon says dead, right? And so Rand is sitting there not perturbed by this, and Matt's like freaking out and stuff. And it's like Rand convinces Tuon to listen to him and to come to the last battle by showing humility in this situation, by instead of being an arrogant prick like he was earlier in the story to her, he takes a bow. Like he bows to her and he shows, I can show you respect. That showing you respect does not lessen my own value. And so because of that, she's like, okay, I need to get off my high horse and I need to go save the damn world. And so because of that, they have the forces that they need to resist the shadow. And you see that over and over and over again, where you have these people with conflicting interests who at any other time would be at each other's throats, come together because there is an existential threat that we need to deal with right the fuck now, or we're all dead. And they do it. They fight back. They resist. People die. They maybe they get defeated, but they resist. They fight. So why do we have to take away all of that messaging to try and like hammer home our own, or not our own, because I'm not going to include myself in this shit, but like hammer home their own? So I just would have liked to have seen less of this performative grief from Lan, more of the stoic Lan in the scene directly before it. Like that's like this episode, I would have said continued the trend of getting better after the first one, if not for this final scene. Like this ruined the entire hour of decent, right? Because aside from the abrupt entry from Loyal, the whole Nynaeve not getting shown in the in the garden, and then Egwene being the one to do the physical violence. Those are my only other 3 gripes, and honestly, I wouldn't consider any of them big. 2 of them are a pacing thing, / they cut a scene to make room for, the stuff with Leandra and Nynaeve. And the 3rd one is just, I feel like it's, I don't know, I just don't like Egwene in I don't like Egwene in the books either. So, you know what? She might be the most accurate adaptation from the books. Because I don't like her here either. But that said, I'm happy that she figured it out and she burnt the ropes. I just think that big hulking Perrin stalking towards Valda should have then hit Valda, but that's fine. I guess we don't get to see him struggling with violence. We just get to see him hating it. Other than those gripes, I would have really liked this. I liked the shots of Perrin with the golden eyes. I liked the whole most of this scene. I liked Loyal. I liked a lot of things in this episode. But then you get this, and I can't. They keep doing it. They just keep doing it. They keep ruining characters for no reason. Like, first Perrin kills his wife. Tom's, a bit of a bastard, but okay. I didn't think he was ruined. Like, Abel Coffin's a deadbeat. Tam gets overwhelmed by a single Trolloc instead of the dozen that it's supposed to be. They've been doing this since episode 1. I don't know why I expected them to do differently, but when I saw this, I was hopeful, and I just didn't get it. But I think that is where we're going to leave this episode. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and y'all have a good one.